I've got a Worker Seagull here. We're gonna test it out. I'm gonna give you my thoughts. And yes, this is a Worker Seagull in a sea foam green. The Worker Seagull comes to us at about $120. Now, this is not your standard typical foam dart toy. This is a hobby-grade performance blaster that is something more akin to a sporting equipment than it is any sort of gimmick or trick. And that's evident in the performance of this, as well as the build quality and extensibility. Now, the one thing looking at this blaster from a distance, you might be thinking, hey, doesn't this kind of look like the Worker Harrier? And, well, to be honest, you would be kind of correct. It does share a lot of the same design language, it shares a lot of the same styling, as well as worker build quality and parts that make it a very familiar blaster. But when you put them together and side by side, that's when things start looking a little bit different. And here's where the differences come into crystal clear shape. The Worker Harrier is a much longer blaster, it's a much bigger blaster. By contrast, the Worker Seagull is something a little more compact. And a lot of you might be wondering, well, what kind of difference does that make? Well, it comes down to play style and how you want to use these in a foam dart battle. Differences in shape and form factor can have lasting and compounding differences when it comes to your loadout and what kind of games that you want to use something like this in. The Worker Harrier is perfect for outdoor battles where you're going to need a lot more distance, where something like the Seagull here is a lot more compact. You're able to get into close quarters quite a bit more with a blaster this size. So we know some of the broad strokes of what the Worker Seagull can do. Let's take a closer look at some of the details and what that could possibly mean if you decide to pick one of these up. First, let's start at the front of the blaster. It comes with this shortened barrel, and it comes with this injection molded SCAR attachment, which is extremely helpful because not only does it give you a little more accuracy and a little spin on the darts, it also gives it that much needed orange tip to make sure that you're playing safely. And the other thing you'll notice is that there's Picatinny on the right as well as the left side. This is a very shortened Picatinny, and the priming grip right here is also attached to Picatinny, so if I didn't like the stock one for whatever reason, I could find something a little more comfortable. And when it comes to the foregrip right here, it is a little small just for my personal taste, but it's not by a large degree. And if you're using something like this in a more compact setting, that shorter foregrip is going to be a benefit to you. And moving down the blaster here, you can see that the styling and lines of this are very smooth, clean, and when you grab onto this thing, you can feel its very durable construction. Now on the top, you have a Picatinny rail as well, and with that you can put on any sort of iron sights or optics on top that you want. The trigger well here is something I like a little better than the Harrier. The Harrier has like an open trigger well right here. I like this closed little bit right here. It just kind of gives it a cleaner look in my book. There is a nice rubberized grip for the handle, and it feels really durable and high quality. And at the stock of the blaster, there is this buffer style tube. It does come with this very truncated stock right here. It feels good up on my shoulder. I can remove this with the included tools that sit in the blaster, and I could put something different here if I wanted to. In fact, I'll take the one from the Worker Harrier and put it on there just to show you. This is the stock from the Worker Harrier, and it sits on there quite comfortably. And it's really easy to reattach this piece too. There is this Allen key that sits inside the blaster. I'll show you where that is, but I can just screw this down and be back in the battle in no time. And there we go. It is all socketed in there, and there is the tiniest little indentation back here that I can put my Allen key and have it ready to take down the blaster in case it needs any servicing, which is something that you're going to want from a blaster that has more performance aims and goals. And in terms of how the darts fly out of this thing, it is a spring-powered blaster, and it comes with a 15-round Worker Talon style magazine. Because I am a curious sort, I got my Strife X right here, pulled out the mag, and I wanted to see if this was going to fit inside the blaster. And just like that, the Nerf magazine works inside the Seagull as well. There are some other nice features here that you typically wouldn't find in a more toy or gimmicky blaster. One of them being that you won't have to prime this blaster to insert a magazine. It has something called a skinny pusher, and if I just tap it from the bottom, I can lock it into place and get back into the game a whole lot quicker. Stuff like this saves you time, and saving you time also means that you can get more tags. And while I don't have official numbers for how fast darts are flying out of these things, I can tell you a little bit about the experience. Prime on this is extraordinarily smooth. It also has a spring to return it back to its initial spot, and when you squeeze on the trigger and the darts do come out of this thing, you feel a really satisfying pop. Faster than you can blink, you'll see the dart hit the opposite wall from where you're standing. Blasters like these do not fail to impress me. The build quality, the ability to put other attachments on there from a whole host of different hobbies, means that something like a Seagull is a really great blaster to use, but it does come at a cost. If you already have a Worker Harrier, a Seagull might not be for you. They are very similar in a lot of respects, and both are by the same company with the exact same build quality. But if you don't have a performance blaster already, and you are looking for something spring-powered, the Seagull is definitely worth a look for your holiday shopping list. When the darts come popping out of this thing, the smiles are sure to follow. But don't let that fool you into thinking that this is a toy. This is for somebody a little more serious about their foam dart flinging. So do you have any other questions about the Worker Seagull that I can answer? Be sure to let me know in the comment section. And that wraps up my thoughts on the Worker Seagull. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.